The winning blueprint presents.
In the lab room.
Welcome. You are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. It is Wednesday, which means it's the start of the NFL work week. For most, for many, matter of fact. But for me, in the lab room, it means it's Soul Survivor Day. And as we all know, this is the day that we pick our survivor. If we are in a survivor pool, that we pick our survivor to find a way to get us to the next week of action to keep us alive in our survivor pool. And so this is Soul Survivor Wednesday. So we will get into that segment shortly. But before we even do that, I just want to talk about survivor pools in general and this time of season, how tough it is. Because once you get into the latter stages of your football pool, and that's what we're getting to here in week 11, there's only 17 weeks. The National Football League. And so now we're in week 11. So that means we're coming down the stretch. You make it this far in the survivor pool, it becomes increasingly hard to pick winners. You know why? Because you've already leaned on teams that are good, that have found a way to get it done week in and week out. You didn't get here by picking the Jacksonville Jaguars. You didn't get here by picking the Cincinnati Bengals or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You didn't get here by picking the San Diego Chargers or the Oakland Raiders. You got here by picking the San Francisco 49ers, the New England Patriots, the Houston Texans, the Atlanta Falcons. You got here by picking teams that are good, the Ravens, the Steelers. You got here off of the strength of good football teams. Well, guess what? In a survivor pool, you can only select a team once. So if you use your Patriots up, you use your 49ers, you use your Houston Texans, your Chicago Bears, what are you left with once you get to the end of the season? Say you've already used the 49ers, the Bears, the Patriots, the Falcons, the Texans, the Giants. Say you use these teams up, Denver. Say you've already used all these teams already. You've already exhausted those options. Who do you turn to in week 11 to get you a victory? Now you find yourself fishing for a winner. This is why you have to play this thing strategically. Because if you don't, you'll find yourself at the end of the season. If you make it that far, look, this is a survivor pool, so you have to do what you have to do just to get you to the next week. You worry about the next week when you get there. Because if you try to play it for the future, you might get caught in the present. So while I understand the desperation that exists in a survivor pool, you also have to be thinking ahead. A survivor pool is not checkers. Not checkers. It is chess. So not only do you have to make a move, but you have to be thinking 2, maybe 3 moves ahead when playing in a survivor pool. And so for those of you who weren't thinking 2, 3, maybe 4 moves ahead, you're finding yourself stuck in the mud making a selection. I'm here to help you through this tough time. I'm here to help you through this rut that you might have gotten yourself into. I understand. I know how it goes because you just want to make it to the next week. Do you know how many people got clipped in 1 week picking the 49ers and they lose? Hell, some people might have got clipped last week picking the 49ers over the Rams when I told you don't do it. Even though I signed off on it, I said, hey, there's a better selection here. That's family business. And you can use the 49ers some other time. Why use them right now if you don't have to? Always find the best option. You know, the best option may not be the absolute best game on that slate, but if it's a win, that's all that matters. You want to find a win, and you want to find it the most efficient way possible. And what I mean by efficiency when talking about a survivor pool is using a team that you know you probably won't be able to use again later. Let's say we're talking the Steelers. The Steelers aren't playing the greatest of football. Okay, they haven't been all season. They've been playing some good football of late, but they're not the dominant Pittsburgh Steelers team we've known and come accustomed to over the last 3, 4, maybe 5 years. This is a Steelers team that's finding ways to win. Haven't really always been dominant, but they got the job done. How many more times do you think the Steelers are going to be a viable pick this season? They have the Ravens twice. They have the Bengals once more. These all three of those games that I just mentioned aren't games you want to even go near when talking about a survival pool. So we're talking about 2 more against the Ravens, 1 more against the Bengals, 2 more against the Browns. We're talking about a team that has a lot of divisional matchups looming due to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, they have a lot of work to do within their own division. You don't want to go near these games, especially watching what they did against Kansas City on Monday Night Football. Although that was inclement weather, I don't care. Get it done. They got it done, but it wasn't pretty. It doesn't put you at ease in picking them. All that did was make it that much tougher to say, hey, you're going to beat the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. Can't really say that, can you? And so, how many more times do you expect to have the option of picking the Pittsburgh Steelers? They haven't even played the Cowboys yet. They still have the Cowboys on their slate. The Steelers aren't going to be a viable option moving forward for the most part. That's why picking them against the Kansas City Chiefs last week, even though the New England Patriots were playing the Buffalo Bills, even though the San Francisco 49ers were playing the St. Louis Rams, even though those games looked like slam dunk winners, the Steelers playing the Chiefs at home was where you needed to go, because if you haven't used up your 49ers, if you haven't used up your Patriots, which I haven't used my Patriots yet, you still have it in the bag. The Patriots still have to play the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's still in my back pocket. Whenever that game shows up, I can just look to that game and say, I still have my Patriots in my back pocket, still in the bank. And that's what you have to be thinking, looking at a sheet, looking at the picks in a survivor pool. You have to be thinking that way. Let's get to who will be the sole survivor in Week 11 in the National Football League.
Everyone can pick, but only one can win. Are you
The Sole Survivor?
Alright, we're at Week 11. We're in the sole survivor mode. Let's go. You know how this is. You've been here before. You know exactly how this is done. Fast pace. You go right at you, in your face. Not a lot of wasted time, not a lot of wasted speech. We get to it. We tell you why this is a good game, why it isn't a good game, and then we move on. I give you the sole survivor. I go over every single game on this slate so you know that the game I'm giving you is probably your best option. Now, you're free to do whatever you like, but as I've said before, I'm 10 out of 11. And that one loss being the Kansas City Chiefs coming back from an 18-point deficit in the second half to beat a New Orleans Saints team who was at home, in control of the game, and let it slip away. So, while I'm not perfect, I'm damn good at this. So I'm trying to tell you right now, if you want a winner, if you want to go to your next week of the survivor pool, stick with me. I'll get you where you want to go. Let's get into it. Let's find out who the sole survivor of Week 11 will be. First up on the docket is Thursday Night Football. The Miami Dolphins are traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. This game just got cloudy just last week. 2 weeks ago, the Dolphins looked like the clear winner in this game. They were playing good football. They looked like the better team, head and shoulders above the Buffalo Bills. The Bills go on the road last week to New England. They show up. They play inspired football. They don't get the win, but they look impressive in defeat, if there's a such thing. The Dolphins, on the other hand, they go home and they throw up all over themselves, get destroyed at home, and they look like a shell of themselves. This isn't a good matchup. This is family business, first and foremost. Two teams that play in the same division. This is family business. You leave this alone. You leave it alone, and you don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. So we move on. You look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Now, the Panthers are playing bad football right now. They're not a good football team. 2 wins out of 9 ball games this season. They're 2-7. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are playing really good football of late. Winners of 4 straight games, doing it very impressively by scoring a lot of points. They're scoring a ton of points right now on the offensive end. They look explosive. It's hard to stop this team, even though they're on the road, even though this is family business. If you wanted to go in this direction, I would tell you not to. This is not a good pick. This is family business. Tampa Bay is on the road. They beat this same Carolina team earlier in the season at home only by 6 points. Don't touch this game. It's family business. Leave it alone. You move on. Cleveland at Dallas. You look at this game, and I tell you what. Ding, 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 ding. The Dallas Cowboys are at home, and they're taking on the Cleveland Browns. And I hate picking Dallas for anything because you can't trust Tony Romo. You can't trust Jason Garrett. You can't trust the Dallas Cowboys. However, this Cleveland Browns team is not a good football team. They're not where they need to be right now. They have a rookie quarterback who's still learning how to be an NFL franchise QB. There's mistakes that he's still making. There's things that he still has to iron out. They're working their way through a lot of the things that happens when you turn your franchise over to a rookie quarterback. It happens. It's called growing pains. They have a lot of young players. I like this young Cleveland Browns team. I like what they have at receiver with Greg Little, Josh Gordon, Travis Benjamin, Josh Cooper. I like what they have at receiver. I like what they have at tight end. Jordan Cameron, Benjamin Watson. You even sprinkle in a little bit of Alex Smith if you like. I like what they have at running back. Even though he hasn't been on showcase a lot this year, I like Montario Hardesty. Trent Richardson looks like a viable running back in the National Football League. And then you sprinkle in a little bit of Chris Ogbonnaya. Nonetheless, they're coming off a bye. Had 2 weeks to prepare for this Dallas Cowboy team. It doesn't matter. The Cowboys are the better team here. They're at home. They're playing better football of late. Haven't always translated into wins. But this Cleveland Browns team isn't going on the road and beating anyone anytime soon. Take the Cowboys here. You run with it. This is your sole survivor. Don't know if there's going to be many more opportunities to select the Cowboys. You look at their schedule and you say, hey, they don't have any winning teams on this schedule down the stretch. Are you really going to pick the Dallas Cowboys over the Redskins and confidently feel good about that pick? Are you going to pick the Dallas Cowboys over the Philadelphia Eagles and feel confident about that pick? We know the Eagles are in free fall mode. We know the next time they play the Eagles, it's going to be at home. But do you really feel confident going in a division picking against some family business? You shouldn't. This is your game right here. You take the Cleveland Browns losing to the Dallas Cowboys, you run with it. That's going to be your sole survivor in Week 11. But we're going to continue down this slate of games just so you know there is not a better option for you to select than the one I just gave you. So let's continue to move on. You look at the Green Bay Packers traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. The Lions are not playing good football. They lost last week to Minnesota for the second time this season. Meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers were on a bye. They're feeling good. They're playing good football. They're on the rise. Winners of their last 4 ball games. They're finally over 500 and playing good football. They're inspired. They're looking like a team that can come off the pace and start to catch fire and be one of the most dangerous teams in the NFC. Translation, don't touch this game. It's family business. It's the Detroit Lions. It's the Green Bay Packers. It's the Packers on the road. You know how I feel about teams on the road trying to get a victory. We know the Packers are the better team here. We know the Packers should win this football game, but they're on the road, and it's family business. That's a double whammy. Leave this game alone. You move on. The Jacksonville Jaguars are at the Houston Texans. Had I not selected the Texans this season, this would be a no-brainer. This would be your slam dunk. If you haven't selected the Texans yet, take this game and run with it. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. If you have not selected the Houston Texans, you take this game and you run with it. I, myself, have already selected the Houston Texans. Can't go back down that road again. And so I had to go in a different direction. But if you have not selected the Houston Texans, and I don't know why you wouldn't have already this season. You've had ample opportunities to select these Texans. But if you haven't, here's your chance to do it. you will definitely have my signature on this one. This is a no-brainer. If you don't have the Texans as one of your picks this season, here's the chance to do it. If you have already selected the Texans at some point this season, then this isn't an option, just as it isn't an option for myself. You take that Cowboys game, you run with it. We move on to the Atlanta Falcons, who are hosting the Arizona Cardinals. This is another game where I would tell you, if you have not selected the Atlanta Falcons this year, by all means, do so in this game. This Arizona Cardinals team, even though they're coming off a bye, they're rested, they're getting healthy, Kevin Kolb might be back, doesn't matter. The Cardinals stink. They can't protect. That offensive line is not going to get better overnight. They're not going to get a running game all of a sudden. This is not a good Arizona Cardinals football team. They're on the road against a mad Atlanta Falcons team who just had their first loss of the season. You take the Falcons in this game if you have the ability to do so, and you run with it. If you don't, my pick is always on the table. It's not going anywhere. You know where I stand. If you have the option to take the Houston Texans first, you take them. If you don't have that option and you have the option to take the Atlanta Falcons, you take them second. But if you don't have either one of those options, as I don't, then you go with the one that I gave you, which is the Dallas Cowboys. We move on. The Cincinnati Bengals are playing the Kansas City Chiefs. The Bengals are on the road against a Chiefs team that's not good at all. They might be the worst team in all of National Football League. It's really a toss-up between them and Jacksonville. All that aside, this is a Cincinnati Bengals team that you can't quite figure out yet. They're 4-5 in the season. They started the season out hot, winners of their first 3 out of 4. Then they dropped their next 4 out of 5, which lands them with a 4-5 record on the season. You don't know which Cincinnati Bengals team is going to show up. You don't need to try and figure it out either against the Kansas City Chiefs on the road. It's not a good pick. You don't pick teams on the road trying to get a victory when you can find a home team that is playing a lesser opponent and go that route, which is what I've given you. You leave this game alone and you move on. The Philadelphia Eagles are traveling to Washington to take on the Redskins. 2 3-6 ball clubs, 2 stinking teams. Next up, the New York Jets are traveling to the St. Louis Rams. 2 stinking ball clubs, 2 teams who really haven't figured it out this season. I tell you what, though, the Rams are in much better shape than the Jets are at this point. Even though the records really don't state that there's a big difference between these 2 teams. You look at the Rams, they have a quarterback. You look at the Rams, they have a running back, maybe even 2. The Jets don't have either of those things. And the Rams even have a head coach that's competent in Jeff Fisher. I say that the Rams are the better team in this game, but you can't tell by looking at the records, so you don't need to even try to pick this game. You move on. The Indianapolis Colts are traveling to New England to take on the Patriots. Last year, this would have been a no-brainer pick. No way the Indianapolis Colts come into Foxborough and get a win. But that's not the case this season. Andrew Luck has invigorated this Colts team. They're taking on Tom Brady and the New England Patriots at home, which isn't a short thing anymore. This isn't a matchup that you want to touch. Both of these teams are playing well this season. Both of these teams are 6-3 on the season. Need I say more? I didn't think so. So we move on. The New Orleans Saints are at Oakland to take on the Raiders. The Saints are playing better football. Ever since Joe Vick showed up on the scene after his suspension, this New Orleans Saints team looks a lot better. They look more efficient. They look like they know what's going on. They look like a team that is prepared to play on Sundays all of a sudden. You look across the field at the Oakland Raiders, they're in freefall mode. After getting within 1 game of 500, they've fallen back into their old ways. They're now the Oakland Raiders that we've come accustomed to, the 3-6 Oakland Raiders on the season, who self-destruct, turn the football over, who create penalties, who aren't a good football team. Nonetheless, the Raiders aren't a good team. The Saints haven't been a good team for the most part of this season. The Saints are scoring points all of a sudden, but they're on the road. That defense is still the Saints' defense. Can't trust them. You leave this game alone. Next up on the slate, the San Diego Chargers are traveling to Denver to take on the Denver Broncos. I must admit, had the Dallas Cowboys not been playing the Cleveland Browns this week, this is where I was going to go with my Soul Survivor pick. Not being able to have the Houston Texans or the Atlanta Falcons at my disposal. If the Dallas Cowboys weren't playing the Cleveland Browns and I didn't have that as a bailout, this is where I was going to go with my Soul Survivor pick. I trust Peyton Manning at home to get it done against the San Diego Chargers. This is family business. You know how I feel about family business. I don't like sticking my nose in other people's business. I don't like going anywhere near family business if I don't have to. However, what's the number one rule, everyone? Yes. You know the number one rule. You don't trust the San Diego Chargers. And so I would have felt very confident picking Peyton Manning at home to get it done against a team that he already went on the road and demolished in the second half of a football game. They were losing 24-0 against the San Diego Chargers team just 3-4 weeks ago on Monday Night Football before storming back and winning the game 35-24. So I know that Denver can get it done against this San Diego Chargers team at home. However, it's family business. And we already know, if it's family business and I don't have to touch it, I don't. So I won't. So I'm moving on. Sunday Night Football. The Baltimore Ravens are traveling to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Did you hear what I just said? The Baltimore Ravens are traveling to the Pittsburgh Steelers. No. Monday Night Football sees the San Francisco 49ers take on the Chicago Bears. Now, this game was already a no-go before we got the circumstances that have been brought upon us on Sunday. But now, with no Jay Cutler, who went down with a concussion, with no Alex Smith, possibly, who went down with a concussion, we are possibly talking about having the Colin Kaepernick-led San Francisco 49ers taking on the Jason Campbell-led Chicago Bears. I seriously doubt that this occurs, but even if it does, this is an absolute, unequivocal no-go. Even if Jay Cutler and Alex Smith were playing, and I think there's a very good shot of Alex Smith playing, and I don't think Jay Cutler's going to play, but I don't know right now. It's up in the air. Doesn't matter who's at quarterback. The fact of the matter is these are two defensive-minded football teams. You don't know who's going to win. Two good football teams, two lost football teams. Leave this game alone. And that is going to be your Week 11 Soul Survivor review. And so, in closing, in case you weren't listening the first time, the Dallas Cowboys over the Cleveland Browns is your Week 11 Soul Survivor. So, one more time, the Dallas Cowboys are your Soul Survivor for Week 11. The Dallas Cowboys are
the Soul Survivor!
So, that is a touchdown. Go ahead and throw it up. Want to tack on this quick extra point. Listening to the reports about this Ben Roethlisberger injury, it does not sound good. Hearing that this is a serious rib injury. They're not even talking about the shoulder anymore. They've already diagnosed the shoulder as a sprain. And so they've kind of moved on from the shoulder. They're talking about the ribs at this point. They're talking about this being a serious rib injury and a rare one. What is defined? Please someone define a rare rib injury. I just thought you could either crack them, break them, or bruise them. What's rare about what he has? You're scaring me at this point. What does that mean? Define rare rib injury. Is it a contusion in an odd, awkward spot that is hard to treat? Is it broken in such a way that he might not be able to play football for the next 6 months? What is rare rib injury? I'm confused. Need clarification on that. Anyway, the bigger picture is if this is in fact a serious rib injury, one that he can't come back from for quite a while, what does that mean for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who of late were playing good football? They just started to hit their stride. They were just starting to play good football. They have the Ravens 2 times in the next 3 weeks. This isn't the time for that. There's not the time for that. And so, if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers, do you have the utmost confidence in Byron Leftwich to get it done? That's a scary proposition. We're talking about a man who has not started since the 2009 season. Do you trust Byron Leftwich with your franchise for the remainder of this season? Because you have to know. No Ben Roethlisberger, you can forget your chances of winning a Super Bowl. Those go out the window. Your only hope is that you can find a way to make the playoffs at this point. But look, we're overreacting to something that we don't even know the answer to right now. We don't know. I don't know what the diagnosis is for Ben Roethlisberger right now. He could just have a cracked rib and a sprained shoulder and be back in 2 weeks. We don't know what the circumstances are. So let's just pump our brakes and kind of take a step back and assess the situation and let the things play out that need to play out for us to figure out where the Steelers need to go from here. But I tell you what, if this is a long-term injury, if you're a Steelers fan, man, is this a crushing blow to a season that was starting to look promising. If you're the Steelers, fan, coach, player, doesn't matter. This is a what-if season. You know, if Ben Roethlisberger is hurt, and again, I'm not a what-if guy, but this is a what-if scenario for you. What if he doesn't get hurt? What if Troy Polamalu plays the whole season? What if is what you'll be saying about the 2012 season. Because I've said this before and I'll say it again. There's a Steelers curse. There's a jinx out there that says the Steelers don't make the postseason every 3 seasons. They didn't make it in 2000, didn't make it in 2003, didn't make it in 2006, 2009. It's 3 years later. It's about that time for the Steelers to miss the postseason. However, after this latest run that they just went on, you're thinking, okay, not only are they going to make the postseason, they're threatening to win the AFC North Division. But with this injury, looks like things are coming full circle again. If I'm a Steelers fan, I am worried that that curse is starting to jump up and bite me again. I don't know. I don't know, but I tell you what, you better hold your breath and hope that Ben Roethlisberger is okay. Because if he's not, you can kiss this season goodbye. And that's going to do it for this episode. I thank you for joining me in the lab room on this Wednesday afternoon. Turned out to be a really cold afternoon here, but nonetheless, it's warm on this show. I just heated up with a nice Survivor pick for you to get you to Week 12. And again, several ways to view or access the show. Contact me. You can go through the inbox in the lab room at gmail.com. That's the inbox. I'm on Facebook. Like the page. In the lab room is the Facebook page. Every video I've ever done on that page. Check it out. Like the page if you are to visit it. I'm on Twitter. At In the Lab Room is the Twitter handle. So check that out. Follow me on Twitter. Love to hear from you. And again, the YouTube page is the easiest, most simple way to access any video that I've ever done. Any video that I'll do in the future. I have to go through YouTube. And so if you subscribe to the page, you'll get it before anyone else does because you're a subscriber to the page. And that page is Louis T. Check it out. You know, subscribe to the page. Like the videos. And again, I thank you for joining me on this program. Hope to see you back here same time, same place tomorrow. And again, that divisional show is coming up at you soon. Stay tuned for that as well as the other shows that you see on this channel. I thank you for joining me. Have a good one.